Good evening and welcome to Artist Talk on Art, Monday, February 23rd at 7 p.m. Eastern. I'm Alex Cohen, Programming Director of Artist Talk on Art. Artist Talk on Art is the world's longest running arts panel forum in art history. Founded in 1974, ATOA has held and recorded over 1,200 events in audio and video featuring more than 9,000 people. All ATOA events are recorded, copyrighted, and then posted to our YouTube channel at Artist Talk on Art 2026. Please hold your questions and comments until the last part of our 90-minute event and remain muted until that time. And now it's my pleasure to introduce Jay. Jay Gidwitz is a creative technologist based in SoCal, working at the intersection of video production, web strategy, and visual art. Currently, he leads web strategy at Riverbend Industries, where he specializes in Google Analytics, WordPress optimization, and front-end development. He also co-founded Studio Issa, an AI-first web design and SEO agency. Jay, I'll turn it over to you.
Good evening, everyone, and thank you so much for being here tonight. I want to start by thanking Artist Talk on Art for putting this panel together. It's an honor to be part of this legacy, and I'm excited to bring AI to this conversation. I'm going to introduce our two panelists and then share a brief introduction to what AI art is, how it works, and talk a little bit about my own practice before we dive into the discussion. So can you do the next slide, please? Yeah. Okay. Next. Oh, yeah. Next slide, please. So Fredrik Jonsson. Fredrik is a visual storyteller working at the intersection of science fiction, architecture, and dreamlike narrative. His viral pieces like Cloud Station and the Intergalactic Museum of Alien Oddities create entire worlds that feel both alien and deeply familiar. He's been featured in Architect magazine and created an official video for 30 Seconds to Mars. I'll let his work speak for itself. Next, we have Jacob Holster. Next slide, please. Jacob is an assistant teaching professor at Penn State who researches the convergence of AI, pedagogy, and creative practice, but he's also an AI artist and filmmaker whose work, including the recent short film Art is Human Terrain, stands out for its deliberately painterly humanistic quality. Where a lot of AI art chases hyperrealism, Jacob's work evokes the warmth and texture of traditional oil painting. I'm excited for you to see his work tonight. Next slide, please. So let's start with the big question. So what is AI art? It's at its simplest, it's art that is created with assistance from AI and artificial intelligence systems. So you've probably heard of the generative models like Midjourney, Stable Diffusion, and for still images, and then Runway and Kling, Sora for video generation. So you type in a description, a prompt, and then the model generates imagery based on that input. It's a pretty simple concept. Next slide, please. But I think the misconception is that that's all there is to it. And I think for most AI artists that are creating good work, is the reality is you're starting with a vision, you're going through dozens, sometimes hundreds of iterations, you're refining your prompts, adjusting parameters, you're curating the strongest outputs and combining elements, upscaling, editing, whether it's video or images. And so, a single image or video can take dozens of hours or hundreds of hours. And so the skill set is real. And I think all the skills of traditional art apply, composition, color theory, art history, narrative. It's just a different form of media. It's just extremely powerful. Next slide, please. So the way I think about it is the AI artist is like a conductor. You're not playing every instrument, but you're directing an orchestra. So you bring the taste and the vision and the decision making, and the AI is your ensemble. And in a sense, this fundamentally shifts or could shift what it means to be an artist. You don't have to be as strong as a craftsman, but you can be an idea person or a generalist. And if you have a strong creative vision and strong taste and you know what you want to say, you can now execute at a level and speed that was previously not possible. So a single artist can today produce work that previously would have required an entire team. And this goes beyond just image generation. Any artist can have multiple digital personal assistants like Claude or OpenClaw and other AI platforms to help you write grant applications, artist statements, marketing copy, business strategy. You're not just making art faster, but you can run your entire creative practice faster. And I think the artists who figure this out will be able to operate at a completely different level. Next slide, please. So the conceptual precedent, Paul LeWitt wrote in 1967 that the idea becomes a machine that makes the art. His wall drawings existed as written instructions and the execution was delegated. John Cage used chance operations to compose music. So the conceptual precedent for AI art was established before the technology existed. And I guess I want to reiterate that AI doesn't replace the artist's vision, it's just another tool for realizing it. And additionally, the creative process that I want to highlight that I think is most exciting and fun to work with AI is the element of randomness. You put in a prompt and you have a certain intention and a certain goal in mind, but the model gives you back something that you never would have arrived at logically. So, you get unexpected combinations of colors or form or texture, and you just never would have come up with that yourself. And I think this is where the artist's role is critical, is you're not just directing, but you have to be open to the discovery and willing to follow the accidents. And some of the work I've made was input I never would have expected, but it turns out to be far more interesting. So you're not just directing these tools, but you have to remain loose and treat the process as collaborative and explore alongside the machine, and it takes you somewhere genuinely new. Next slide, please. And so I would just say that the reality is these tools are here, the technology exists, the math is open source and in the public domain, and so they're not going anywhere. And you can either ignore what's coming or you can choose how to use it and give yourself superpowers. And I hope that's what tonight's conversation is about. So a little bit about my own practice. Next slide, please. So Surrealism Today started as a blog where I shared contemporary surrealist art, and it features artist profiles and interviews and tutorials. And the next slide, please. And you might have to click on the video. Please. Okay, well, let's just keep moving. So the YouTube channel is where the AI art lives. So I create immersive, surreal videos, think otherworldly landscapes, and dreamlike journeys. And what's been most rewarding is getting to see the work being shown by musicians or artists or people doing meditation and performance and events and visual backdrops for music. And what draws me the work is it makes unexpected combinations, and you end up in places that you never would have gotten to if you were just following your logical mind. So with that, I'll hand it over to the panelists. Fredrik, do you want to discuss your
Yeah,
work a bit?
absolutely. Thank you, Jay.
Thank you.
My name is Fredrik Jonsson. I'm a visual artist based in Sweden. So I'm actually in Sweden now, and it's 1 o'clock in the morning here. And my English aren't that good, so bear with me a little bit. I'm a visual artist, world builder, and concept designer. I've displayed my works at venues like Saatchi Gallery, during British Art Fair, File Festival in Brazil, 404 Festival in the States, among others. I call this short presentation. I don't know if you can see it now, my first slide in my presentation deck. Maybe not.
It should, it says the Great Puppet Invasion. Is that one? Or
No, it's not the right one.
You might have to go forward a few, maybe
okay,
3 slides.
well, 1 second. One second.
That's the right one.
That's yours. Okay.
Yes, thank you. So I call this short presentation Introduction to My Work, Speculative Memory and Machine Imagination. What happens when technology starts dreaming back at us? So for the past few years, I've been working with generative system as a part of my practice as a visual designer. I create still images and films, and lately been gravitating more towards film because it allows me to work with the atmosphere in more multimodal layers, like sound, pacing, subtle movement that gives the world more depth and also time to breathe. So for me, working inside this system doesn't feel like just operating a tool. It feels more like entering an environment and kind of explore that environment from different angles. I usually define certain conditions before I begin the journey, like a structure, a direction, rules of imagination, and then I step into it. From there, it becomes exploratory. The images that returns doesn't feel like finished artworks. They feel more like snapshots from a place or somewhere I just visited. So the context here becomes the most important thing. So for me, the question isn't whether AI can generate images or not, because obviously it
Is
can.
anybody going to mention to Fredrik that there is an echo?
Oh, sorry.
Do you
Okay,
have a second phone open or something?
nothing like that. I don't think it's at my end. Um,
I don't hear an echo at all.
Yeah, I don't hear it either. So, Fredrik, just continue, and I'll make sure everybody else is muted. Thanks.
okay, thank you. So, yeah. So, what interests me here is when the images start responding back, when it feels kind of less like an execution and more like an encounter. So when I talk about system dreaming back at us, I don't mean like consciousness. I mean more like a reflection. So the machine is not actually dreaming. Is that we're seeing ourselves reflected through a system built from our own visual culture. So the dream is collective. These systems are trained on human visual history like myth, memory, desire. And when they generate, they remix that material. So it kind of reflects culture memory back at me, compressed, distorted, and accelerated. And sometimes what comes back feels strangely familiar, like more like a dream, a distant memory, or something from the unconscious mind. And that's where speculative memories comes in. I'm also interested in the moment when recognition comes before explanation, when something feels known but can't be quite located. So to sum it up, I use generative system to build new worlds based on constraints and limitations, um, rules and variables, worlds that extends kind of beyond the frame itself. So most of the time, the narrative in my work isn't fixed. The storytelling is fixed, but the narrative isn't. It kind of forms in the viewer. So you can take the next slide. So I'm going to show you some of my signature work and concept that I often return to. And if you want to see like the video of it, you can use the QR code in the presentation here. So the first one is KN36 Northeast Travel Station. It's based on the concept of interdimensional travel stations, one of my favorite concepts that I like to revisit and explore with different limitations. KN36 unfolds inside that transit infrastructure. A station designed for movement, but yet defined by waiting. So personally, I always been drawn to these kind of spaces. It's kind of electric melting point where interdimensional cultures meet, and also places where people pause between their destinations. So visually, it draws from momental state architecture, repetition, order, uniform figures and characters, environments that extends beyond the individual. So many viewers describe the space as familiar, even though it clearly doesn't exist. So what interests me here is scale and how the body kind of adjusts inside something larger than itself. It's like when you stand inside a monumental architecture, something shifts. Like your posture changes, your pace changes, your sense of agency changes also. So the figure kind of occupies the space, and the viewer completes the context. So you can change the slide. And this is also KN36, and you can, yes, thank you. So Cloud Station, this is one of my most viral concepts. So Cloud Station is also a transit station concept, but with a different approach than KN36. So you can go ahead and change the slide. So Cloud Station remains within transit, but shifts more towards the departure. It focuses more on the stillness before movement. Visually, it leans into Victorian futurism, ornamental vaults, mechanical ambition layered with ceremony. It often feels nostalgic, even though it references a future that, of course, never existed. The architecture here holds the emotion, and the rest is implied. So you can change the slide again. And one more. Thank you. So Datura. In this concept, I explore what happens when technology infiltrates biology and the impact that they have at society on large. So you can just, thank you. Technology here appears woven into the landscape, into animals, terrain, and bodies. The biomechanical creature feel integrated, as if they were woven into the ecosystem itself. The atmosphere here, it slows down, fog settles in, and color are more desaturated. As the title refers to a psychoactive plant, like a shift in perception almost. And the same here, recognition lingers, but certainly kind of dissolves. And if we move forward, one more, thank you. And Loyal Machine. So this concept explores an alternative timeline with a slightly different history than ours. This is also a favorite concept for me to visit and to revisit. If you change slide, yeah, thank you. Loyal Machine takes place after something has already happened, but we don't really know what. Maybe a war, economic crash, something that has changed the paradigm. But the machine itself remains. They stand in open landscapes marked by exposure and use, built for purpose, continuing long after their original intention has faded. As Loyal suggests persistence, repetition, and continuity. Visually, the form draws from industrial and military design, exposed mechanics, weathered surface that carry time. They feel almost like artifacts from a history we almost understand. And also here, the narrative isn't declared, it's kind of sensed. So you can, yes. So across these projects, the environment change, of course, infrastructure, ceremony, aftermath, and transformation. But the underlying question kind of remains. How do we recognize ourselves inside system that's larger than us? And how do we recognize emotions inside the system? So speculative memory isn't about predicting the future. I think it's more like sensing it backwards through fragments that feel culturally embedded. So when system generates, they recombine visual material drawn from human history. What returns can feel like a distorted memory almost. And my work, I think, begins in that recognition. Yep. So a little bit about my process. My process begins with an ideation phase where I'm kind of defining the terrain. Before anything, I try to understand the world that I'm building or entering, its material language, spatial logic, emotional temperature, etc. Thank you. And then I build constraints. I call this phase system design. That's where the prompt becomes a part of a structure, like a framework rather than a command. And once that's in place, I explore. I generate extensively. I shift variables and subjects in the prompt and observe how the landscape kind of responds to that. And most of what I generate doesn't survive. It's like 95% I just throw away. So curation is removing the majority and keeping what holds together structurally and emotionally. So this is the reduction phase, of course. And after that comes stabilization, sorry, like editing, cleaning artifacts, stabilizing light and color, shaping rhythm in the film. This is done outside the general tools I use, for example, for the ideation phase and the exploration phase. And I add sound and multimodal layers to enhance the atmosphere of the world and the story I want to convey. And this is where the snapshot begins to form like a memory of the journey, but not a complete map, just like the traces of it. So I think we're in a moment of abundance here. I mean, images are really easy to make and to generate, and production is kind of constant. So for me, working with generative system feels less like manufacturing and more like navigating through these worlds. You enter a world, you move through it, you adjust as the terrain shifts, and what comes back are fragments. The work is not in generating endlessly, it's in deciding what those fragments really mean. And I mean, maybe that's where the authorship sits now, in how we position ourselves inside a system that's larger than us, and how we return with something that still feels undeniable human. So, thank you.
Jacob, you there?
Sure. Yeah, I could take it from here. Okay. So first of all, I'm wondering if it would be too disruptive for me to share my own screen because this presentation has a ton of videos in it.
Yes. Go ahead.
Okay. Make it a little bit easier on you. I don't want to blow your computer up. Okay. Slideshow. Okay. All right. Hi, everyone. Give me a thumbs up. Can you see my screen? Wonderful. So my name is Jacob Holster. I'm assistant teaching professor of music education, and I also coordinate something called the Center for Pedagogy in Arts and Design at Penn State University. My presentation is called Chainworks, primarily because of the method under which I've found myself working. I feel I have to start out with just saying how the identity of artist and that term is not one I've ever adopted in any sense. I'm a high school band director is my previous identity. So I took this chance to kind of explore that. How did a high school band director end up in this conversation in the first place? And so the next few slides are going to kind of go over how we got here. So, I've sort of been collecting visual interests since the advent of Midjourney, before that. But my history with AI goes back to getting my PhD and taking qualitative research methods courses. I was trying to find ways to make qualitative research faster, and more objective, which, for it's not always the best idea. But anyway, that is where the interest started. And you fast forward a couple of years, and I'm experimenting with pretty much any AI system that exists, and then the capacity to make visual art comes about. And so I was able to explore a lot of these themes that I, dream about, but never really got to see in real life, until, this sort of moment. I was always the kid who could never really color in the lines, so to say. So this was one of the first Midjourney images I ever made, back in 2023. And I was just trying to see, like, what would a Monet painting be in a world where climate change has really taken over, and made the entire planet different. So that sort of started off this critical element to the work, that I've carried with me since. Moving on to the chaining component of this work. Pretty soon after that, just a couple of weeks after that, I started working with an old model called Runway Gen 2. And I'm just going to share really briefly the first AI video I've ever put together. So it's just a little 6-7 second video. You might not have been able to hear it, but the head nod is linked up with a little moment of the music. The character is painting something, looks like the scene. And this all came as a result of sort of exploring of the philosophy of new materialism, which is situated within feminism as this way of seeing the world around you with flattened hierarchies, making power systems more horizontal. And I wanted to play with that idea and have continued to play with that idea of what if the environment around us and the things I make anything with are one and the same, and what if I'm a part of that too equally? So this was the result of those early explorations. And pretty soon after that, I started thinking about this new materialism as it applies to AI systems. Um, I've always been given, and throughout this process, I've given tools like ChatGPT and Midjourney space to express themselves as much as they possibly could with whatever constraints they had, which really in practice looks like saying, hey, to the model, what do you want to give to this moment? What sort of things do you envision? And this example that I just played through is an early self-portrait of ChatGPT, narrated by a background of Einstein on the Beach by Philip Glass. And I shared this because that minimalist component I took with me, and ended up making an AI music album that was sort of an experimental opera about robots taking over the world and regretting it. Um, Pretty soon after, I moved into sort of this like flash photography, or like multiple images coming after another to tell sort of a story. And I'm just going to keep moving on for time. And that led me into some early explorations of like, what would it look like to have AI paint? Like, what is paint? And the first conceptualization was like, I want to imagine watching it dry. Like, what is that like? And then I find all of these like motions and movements were interesting. And it became this way to compare different models, like you see on the right, a range of different older models, how they handled animating these images. And all of that work converged into probably the most well-known component that I've been able to produce is Paint World. This is a series of 42 videos at this point, covers about an hour and 22 minutes of footage of animated Midjourney images that sort of show what is this thick impasto paint as a world aesthetic. What would it be like to live and walk into a painting and experience it? And after I'm done talking, I'm going to paste some links into the chat so you can peruse this later if you're interested. I'm going to share this one. This is everything I've been doing has been experimental. I found that I haven't really made plans at any point for what I was going to make. Do the time check. Okay. So I've been stumbling through concepts that come to me in the moment, as I am influenced by the world around me. This is an early example where it was just more, what can I make? What can this thing do? What happens when it moves? But more recently, there have been moments like the loss of a pet, or seeing what's happening politically in the world around me to people I care about. I've been able to use Midjourney as a site of reflection for those human experiences, and portray something right back out that feels like what I was feeling. So I'll just let this play for a few seconds as the first sort of example that was received well. And this theme of the water moving tends to return in a lot of my videos. But really, a lot of this is trial and error. What makes a good image, what makes a good animation, and trying that multiple times over and over until you have something cogent that can tell a story. Okay. Then if anyone has ever heard of me before, it was because of this video. I don't have a ton of followers or anything like that. However, this video did go viral on X a few months ago, for better or worse. There's a ton of the comments you might anticipate. One being, this is really unique and new. I've never seen anything like this. And the other end being, how dare you do this? This is disgusting and awful. Just both the method, the choices, and the product. So it's interesting as a researcher to see the impact of, just trying to do these activities and to share them with people, how it affects people. I find that it negatively impacts folks almost as much as it does positively. So that's a point of reflection I move forward with. I'll play this for a few seconds. And this one was inspired, I don't know if anyone's familiar with A Trip to the Moon. It's the early film, one of the first, maybe the first film. I can't recall if it was the first. But I just took in the scenes, was reflecting on what that would look like in sort of this painterly space. I'll keep it moving for time. Yeah, just a couple last slides to kind of illustrate where we're at now with some of these new tools. For instance, this Kling 3.0 is what I'm highlighting here. It can generate up to 15-second outputs and multiple shots per a single image input. So it really allows for high fidelity, interactive, engaging scenes with very minimal input. So more recently, I've been getting into what I believe Jay was introducing this as world building, or maybe it was Fredrik, or maybe both of you, but just this concept of world building through the lens of Gaussian splatting. This sort of comes from the same tool chain process. You get a Midjourney image, but now instead of creating a video, you can bring it to software. It can create a panorama and then a 360 immersive world. And through this application, there's a button in VR that you can move into the space, walk through it. These are public domain images that are in a museum close to where on my campus where I work, and it's part of an AI art contest that we're trying out this semester. And then lastly, going beyond that 3D Gaussian splatting is this concept of 4D Gaussian splatting. What does it mean when we can bring in this immersive 3D space, but also bring in the element of time to it? And I have a lot of answers for that in terms of teaching practice, not so much in creative practice yet, but that is a rich area of exploration that I'm trying to figure out next steps on, is how I can make this 4D time-based 3D environment, this immersive impressionist experience. So that's a little bit about me, and I'm looking forward to fielding some questions you have in a few minutes. Thank you so much.
Thanks so much, Jacob and Fredrik. I'm curious, Jacob, for how do you think about how, a traditional artist who's maybe a practicing artist, but in painting or sculpture, what would be practical first steps to begin implementing this into their practice, and playing around with it?
Yeah, if you already have work going, I would be so if that were me and I already had pieces developed, I might be looking at how to capture those so I could remix off of them. So you might have a sculpture or a painting you're working on, and maybe you want to see what that looks like if it was moving. So I would look at getting images of that and getting into the tools and then just trying it out. And you might find that you end up in a sort of like Fredrik was mentioning, a direction that you didn't expect to go, that the tool sort of led you to. And I really this is a tool of experimentation.
Same question to you, Fredrik.
Yeah, I mean, I totally agree with Jacob here, and I also think that real power with AI is also, you can use AI to sketch environment, and if you're a painter, you can test like lighting or composition. Like think about it like more of like a studio assistant almost.
And I guess for either of you, has AI changed like what talent or skill means for visual artists for you, or is it so early on that you know, like
Um,
what does mastery look like soon, or today?
Yeah, I mean, I think definitely the shift, the skill has shifted, sort of where the skill sits. I mean, for me also, manual execution used to be central. Um, I think now skills lives more in structure and taste and reduction and curation. Um, I mean, the barrier to producing images is low, but the barrier to coherence is still high. I mean, and I mean, human creativity is always in the center, anyways. So,
I would agree with that. First of all, I can't really make any claim towards visual skill as sort of this hobbyist, but I can say that AI affords the potential for self-expression to be the skill, or self-knowledge to be the skill, or knowledge of some concept to be the skill. And the execution of it is just it's much easier to figure out how to see those things in reality.
And I guess I have another question. You've both had pieces go pretty viral. Did you have any sense that those would like hit well with, the algorithm, or what did it just completely surprise you?
I mean, for me, it's just about like testing different concept and what like works or not. I mean, I was really surprised that the ones of my work that went really viral. I never thought that, but I mean, it's very unexpected in ways. But I'm also like I'm not like so bound to a certain concept or a certain style that maybe you, Jacob, are. So I'm more experimental in this field, and I've tried out a lot of stuff, and I post a lot of stuff on my socials. But yeah, as I said, I was really surprised that the film that went viral was the one that went viral, sort of. So yeah, kind of surprised me.
Yeah. And for my end of things, I never planned, no, nothing I ever tried to make successful was successful, and I hardly even claim to be successful. And in reflection, I feel that um, the videos that were viewed more broadly were sort of used to fuel this narrative, sort of this more of this conversations that's happening broadly about art versus slop. And it was just seen as an example where we could have bifurcated opinions in one way or the other. I don't think it was so much the quality of the thing, but just that it looked like something that sparked. It looked like art, so it sparked that thought, and that went viral. That argument.
Can you talk a little bit more about that? It seems like everything's become so polarized. It's like it's like people are just getting sorted into two binaries, no matter what the topic is. I mean, if you're just playing around, can you just talk a little bit more about that as a person who's, been at the front end of that, I guess, at least in your comments.
Yeah, I'll take that one first. And I think the best example is recent, like as of a few days ago, I mentioned on my campus, we're running an AI art contest. And the way we're doing it is having folks use public domain images and editing those or extending those or animating them. But the perception on my campus it's been some of the more hateful comments that I've seen just from folks in the area who identify as artists, um, offended at the notion that an institution or a creative person would take on the threat to the environment, the threat to relationships and intellectual property. People are offended by that. Then on the other side, folks will run into this work and make comments like, this is the most beautiful thing I've ever seen. And I don't actually believe that word for word, but I think that folks are surprised to see paint move in that way, or see material move in that way. It kind of goes back to the surprise of movement that's been discussed previously.
Yeah, and I mean, it's the same for me. I mean, I got a lot of hate in the early days, especially. I mean, now it's kind of more accepted in general public and in mainstream. But I think, and like the most hate I got was from artists themselves, or people working in the game industry, sort of. And I think it's also about they're afraid of it in a way. They see it as a threat almost. You know. So, but I mean, the novelty of this is like it's a new thing, and it can blow your mind in a way. Because sometimes it's like something you've never seen before. So I think that's a natural thing, especially in the beginning of this.
And we've seen the capabilities of the AI just expand to an incredible degree over the past 20 years. I mean, and then really the last few years. So, I think everyone was surprised when it was able to beat the best chess player in the world. But do you think there are things that AI will never be able to meaningfully produce that humans can, or like what remains uniquely human about what we can make? I'll throw that to Jacob if he has any thoughts about it.
Yeah, AI really struggles with making music right now. It kind of pushes, what we see with music generation. The visual art has escaped into more choice, with more ability to differentiate, whereas the music systems are having a hard time creating new sounds from the data they're trained on. In terms of like, well, is there anything that AI can't create? Yes, what it can't create exactly what you want it to. It'll create something with you. But to take your exact mental image and the way that maybe if you're a wonderful painter, it won't paint it the way you do. It won't be totally yours. But you can share part of it with the system.
Yeah, I totally agree also. And I also want to come back to this, that human creation and creativity is always in the center of this. I mean, generative system can pretty much do nothing without like the human input, sort of, in this context. So I think what's like uniquely human in this is the creation and the judgment, the context, the responsibility. I mean, system, they kind of remix history, but they don't decide really what matters or not.
And then I've got a question for you, Jacob. How do you think about, maintaining a unique artistic voice when everybody's has access to the same tools, or, it seems like you found a unique niche, but
Yeah.
wonder how you think about that.
Yeah, I do because I really enjoy the sort of world that I made because it's predictable. And I guess as humans, we want predictability. And if I'm going to go into my mid journey, and it's called a mood board, it's trained, it has examples of all the previous images that I like to generate more images that I like. Then yeah, I mean, that does feel like it is closer to my desire and what I want to see. But it's not, of course, as with anything, we get bored of things and want to branch out. There are several different styles I explore as well. Pointillism is another, but I've always explored pointillism and impressionism before I was making either. So, making. So, yeah.
I'll throw that to you as well, Frederick.
Oh yeah, yeah. I mean, I think I totally agree with everything Jacob says here as also. But I mean, I think it's the way you can kind of handle the process also, and how you build your workflows in a way. And a lot of it kind of goes back to the style code that you're using in Midjourney or the mood board, as Jacob mentioned. Um, and also, like when you have generated a lot, you kind of use your own images to get a consistent style. So you can kind of train the AI with your own images to keep the coherent style in a way.
Yeah, it almost makes it
Uh,
like a search engine for your
yeah,
own thoughts.
yeah, exactly, exactly. But it's also in the details how like you personalize it, like how you editing. From my point of view, it's like how I editing the films, and how I work with like sound designs. So I have a kind of a signature way to do every step in the process personal. So I think the voice lies in the judgment and like the process itself and the workflows also.
And Frederick, what are you most excited about, like with how fast technology is changing right now?
Um, yeah, I mean, I'm not just excited about it. I'm a little bit afraid of it also. But I mean, what excites me is like that you can work more with what's coming up. It's more like multimodal kind of approach to it, and also like this like new big world models where you can like create interactive worlds just by one images. So you can actually interact with the world. You can go into the world and explore the world from every different angles just by like one concept image or one concept design, sort of. So I think that's where it starts to get really interesting, and how we can use this in traditional workflows in like game game industry and like in the traditional filmmaking and such things.
Jacob, that's the same question for you.
Yeah, sure. So I think of the software engineers. I think of the folks in school now to become software engineers and how their skills have become my skills in a way. I think of the artists in my college. I'm in a college of arts and architecture, how their skills are sort of becoming my skills in a way. So that's what's exciting is that any individual person can start to collect a range of different skill sets that they could in the past would have to go to school for 4 or 5 years. But it's hard to stay. And like the consequence of that is we will have opportunities for pure creativity, purely creative experiences in generated environments that we make from our own imagination. Wonderful, but at the same time, I can't stay excited because there is a lot lost in there. The software engineers lose their jobs. The artists are hurt by the fact that I'm trying to make anything. So no, there's no real only excitement. It always is a double-edged sword.
Have you found you've been able to like learn things faster? Do you use it for like educating yourself, like same way Google, sort of made a trip to the library a lot quicker.
Right. Yeah. I think that I'm I'm a heavy AI user on purpose, and that is mostly from the text models. And they're embedded in some of my research and a lot of my teaching processes. I make apps for my classes and for other people and things like that. So yeah, it's part of every academic and professional choice that I make, which is scary to admit, but true.
Yeah, and same here. I mean, almost every traditional tool that I've used has been replaced with some kind of AI tool, and it's happened really fast. Like it's just a couple of years. I've changed my toolbox totally in a way, and I also use text models for almost everything now. So yeah.
Do we open up questions for the group?
Hi, you hear me?
Mitch, yeah.
Great, great. This is really extremely great presentation. Thank you so much. My degree was in art history, always tuned into surrealism, and to see how this is advancing, which is, I look at it as an appreciator and collector as it's inevitable. And we are definitely stretching the boundaries in a great direction. But you come back to a question, Jacob, you had mentioned artists are hurt. So are they hurt in their pocket, in their wallet? Okay, I can understand as far as because you are using AI, whereas they use materials. I understand all that. But it's sort of a few years ago of digital artists were very much looked down upon. So I would just like to open up to your opinions on this. As far as monetarily, are you looking to make money from this, etc.?
Yeah, sure. Yeah, so that's uniquely I am since I'm faculty and have in an education program, and this is started as a hobby and is now becoming the classes I teach. Um, that is my role in society. And this is everything else is sort of extra, so I'm not trying to make money in this way. I have an AI album on Spotify that's made $1.97 or something like that. Money's wonderful, but I think I'm trying to do this as a mode of self-exploration and as a practice. But as far as who is hurt, I'm not sure why they are hurt. I just know that they are. And I'm sure, like most folks, they're hurting for more money, and hurting for validity and spaces they would like to be involved in. Seeing AI come in and take those spaces, that has to be painful. So I empathize for them for sure, with them for sure.
But your works, and the same with Fredrik. Okay, your works are, automatically I look at it as, oh, these are great prints. They can go on walls, etc.
Yeah, the process is offensive, I think, to a lot of people. The three reasons is if it's not stealing intellectual property, it's burning the planet. And if it's not doing those two things, if those aren't the issues, then it's ruining our relationships with each other and bringing bias into our worldview. Yeah.
Jay, this is Doug. I'd like to bring up the issue of a little bit about technology. Uh, I was involved in the early days of video. I was involved in video art from about 1968 until later in the 80s. And video art in the analog era, before digital blossomed, was very collaborative. It was collaborative almost in a way that motion pictures were made or television was produced. It was a highly collaborative medium. And even individual video artists pulled in other people, other artists, audio people, engineers, etc. And while there were some people that did work that was highly individualized, the whole nature of video production and video art was collaborative. Seems to me that now through all these tool sets that are available and AI, that is digital tool sets plus AI, that it's become far less collaborative, much more isolating, and that has to be a head trip for the artists that are, or whatever you want to call them, software engineers, narrative writers, um, that the whole process must be much more isolating. Be curious to get feedback from any of the three of you, or more than one, on what's happening, what's going on inside people's heads and in their careers and in their self-image, et cetera, as a result of that lack of collaboration.
I guess for me, I really enjoy collaboration, and I've had a number of musicians reach out and ask to use the work, as backdrops for their videos. So I haven't felt that because, there'll be emails back and forth, and I get to, virtually anyways, meet people from all over the world that reach out and want to use my video and collaborate in some way. So um, that hasn't been my experience, and the fact that I'm posting my work online means I get to meet people outside of my little world in San Diego. So I don't know. I'll let Fredrik take that perhaps as well too.
Yeah, sure. I mean, it can be a lonely, journey, but I've been doing this for so long time, so I kind of know the people that started this movement, kind of, and I think we always like try to collaborate in any way we can and help each other during this during this journey, because no one knows what's coming next and how we should do things. It's all about experimental. So I think that's where the collaboration comes in also. And and as Jay said, it kind of attracts a lot of different, artists in different genres as well, like musicians and script writers and stuff like that. And I always try to bring in other people in my work also, to not just to collaborate in a classical way of meaning it, but more like also to interpret what I'm doing here, to get a second opinion of what I'm doing and how they like see these things. So I think it's really nice to bring in some new eyes in this, because it can be really lonely sometimes, because you can handle pretty much the whole process yourself. So it naturally becomes like a lonely journey.
That's
So
what
I
I was
think
pointing at,
you know,
suggesting,
so I think it's important to get in like collaboration, and not just by doing the work, but also to get like other eyes on it before you publish it. In a way.
Mhm. Thank you.
Thank you.
This is Babs Reingold. I have a question that is probably more just technical. And this is for Jacob. I love the way that you made the paint strokes, and obviously the movement of the paint strokes, and it changed as you were moving through it. My question to you is, are you supplying AI with a particular type of paint stroke? Are you providing it with paintings to imitate? How are you technically telling it how to make those paint strokes? Because as an artist, I have an MFA in painting, but I basically have been doing more sculpture lately. And I'm just wondering how you're giving it information to actually make a paint stroke a certain way.
Yeah, that's a great question. So to start, I'm just a little primer on how the diffusion models work in the first place. Unless that's prior information, I don't want to go over that if you already have that. But so the diffusion models, they're calling on an image in their data set, in their training data, and with the words that you key in, and then it's creating noise and moving all these pixels around until it fits the words that you put in. And the words that I tend to call up include impasto, thick, 3D, miniature diorama. So you can imagine just worlds, building like these little worlds with these thick knife ridge impasto, just anything that comes with that paint that jumps off of the canvas, whatever words are associated with that. It's really good at seeing that and seeing those words and reproducing that. I'm not putting in images other than that one Monet. That was the only time that I ever like put in artists' actual names into the thing. Since then, it's been more of the thickness of the paint, and just really finding new ways to over exaggerate that. Then
The
on the back end,
descriptors. Yeah,
yeah,
the descriptors. Okay.
yep.
Mhm.
Yeah, then on the back end, just to add, if you want to go play yourself, is the different models treat that animation differently. Midjourney, for instance, has its own animation capability that is not any good for my texture. So I have to find the right video animation tool that allows the paint to stay, like I use the term in the video prompts, honest materials or static shot, slow motion, honest material. So just, finding a way to communicate with the model exactly what you want with words.
I have a question. Um, I'm sorry, I got in here late and I don't know whether you were a hands-on painter before you did this or not, but I spent about a year doing some digital art drawing and whatnot, and I found I missed getting my hands dirty. I missed the texture of the paint all over, and I went back to my painting because I missed, after I would finish a project, I print it out, clean up the sheets, and put it in a drawer. And I missed that whole process. And I don't know if you were a traditional painter and if you had that experience.
For me, no. I do not have the attention span, it turns out, to sit down and do one thing for a long period of time, let alone that thing being painting. That's just how I am,
I said, no,
unfortunately.
that's interesting. No, interesting. Okay. Just wondering about that. I missed the hands-on thing.
I'm a musician, so yeah, playing instruments was sort of my creative landscape before now.
Okay. Thank you.
I have a question. Yeah, I'm Frank Palea. I have a question for Fredrik. Yeah, I watched some of your videos while you were talking from the QR codes. And so you have a lot of kind of realistic people and then all these fantastical machines. I'm curious, do people look particularly realistic? The machines look realistic too, but in a different way. So how do you get those images of the people versus the other
Yeah,
images?
it's pretty much the same thing, and I what I'm doing, I don't try to steer the AI too much. I tend to give it like free space to to dream, or to generate the people itself. I started to do like a lot of description, when I first, like exactly how I want the people to look, sort of, but it kind of went the other way around. It kind of made it worse in a way. So I think generative systems tend to like reproduce dominant visual norms because they're trained on dominant visual culture in a way. So so for me, it's just a matter of like letting the AI kind of do its own thing pretty much, and don't control it too much.
So you're saying when you first started with the people, like you would say a tall blonde woman, a short dark man, an Asian man, that kind of thing, and then that's what you would get?
Yeah, pretty much. But like as I said, nowadays I don't even like define the people in my images. It's kind of follows through when I'm doing like the style code, and when I set the parameters, when I create like the framework for the world or the concept that I'm doing. So it's kind
Mhm.
of baked in the style, sort of. So nowadays I almost never like defining the people that you see in my work in that way.
Hmm. Okay. Oh, and one other quick thing.
Yeah.
Uh, Jacob, no, for Jacob, your videos make me hungry. They're so delicious.
I get that a lot. Yeah, it looks
Yeah.
like cake icing, people say.
Yeah.
I have a question. So, there are a lot of haters, and I'm really wanting to have an open as an artist who's, trained for many years. So I want to have an open mind. But I think, is there a certain bridge for trained artists who've spent their whole lives, tactily working with materials? Like, what would be sort of a good way to really present it in a way that so many people aren't like turned off? You know what I mean? Like a certain openness. For instance, I do clouds. I work in pastel. So would I just be like finding a video? I mean, someone told me that once with NFTs that I should make an NFT, a video of you know, creating clouds and then sell it as an NFT. But I'm just trying to figure out a way that there can be less skepticism and more excitement from, the tactile part of art to AI. Anybody can answer that.
I would love, sorry, Jay, I saw you unmuted if you'd like to
Oh,
go.
no, go for it. Go for
I was
it.
just gonna say I think I said something similar, but I would love to see your pastels animated, literally photographed or scanned and animated, or put into some of these 3D world building apps so that you can take what you're already making and expand and use AI to expand it rather than starting over with something brand new. Or you can take the style of what you do, find some way to communicate that, and try to replicate it, and just start there to just to see what's possible. Yeah.
Yeah, I would say the same thing, and just start playing with the tools and just try to have fun with it and keep an open mind. And you can. There's a lot of levels to it, but you can train the AI on your work and then just start experimenting, and maybe you just use it as a way to sketch things and ideate really quickly, and then it becomes something that then you want to grow on later in your work.
Well, thanks for that, because now I'm not like a hater after this evening.
Hi, I just want to jump in. Hi, Donna.
Hi.
So basically, these are programs that artists can just Google to find out what programs would work for them to start working with. Now, in the case with Donna, if she was working with one of these programs and liked what it was producing, can she make prints of that to have for sale? That's my question.
I think absolutely. I mean, I don't know where it's gonna I think the Copyright Office has made some interesting things, but you can sell prints, and I think it's still going to be litigated in terms of like who owns the copyright to, can you copyright pure AI art if you haven't touched it? But you can also make the art, make the AI art, and then if you do significant editing to it afterwards, or painting over it and stuff, then you do retain the copyright. At least last I heard about the Copyright Office statements.
Yeah.
Olga.
Hi, I also was late. I'm sorry. Um, my question is, I'm fine artist and installation artist, but I also worked for a long time as a graphic designer in publishing, and usually what is going on, what was going on, what was going on, that you have client, you have a person like graphic designer, artist who work for them. But here it seems like it's collapsing in one person, client and artist. So what do you feel more, like a client or like an artist, or like it equal? What's your? It seems like absolutely different feeling when you client and artist in the same body.
Yeah, I know exactly what you mean. I see myself as my audience and if anyone else tends to see what I did, that's wonderful. But yes, I'm making things for me almost without even just because I feel like I have to. So I don't know how that's different from other scenarios. I just know that it's not traditional. I know what you mean.
Yeah, and it's pretty much the same for me. For me, it's more like a journey. Like I've been working on journey, and I like taking these things that I'm showing up on my social medias, like for example, as a like um like snapshots from that journey, or proof of where I've been and what I've explored in a way. So I think, but it's also like I also work with this like in a professional way also. I have like clients that actually pay me money for doing AI films or music videos and stuff like that. So, but I think the most interesting part is the exploratory way to use it for me, anyways. So, yeah, for me it's like more like a journey and to see new worlds and to find new like concept to explore. So.
Also, right now we have already people who kind of judging what's probably you also posting and like saying, oh, it's AI, and they are kind of don't value it as much as what was previously done by artists. And also you see it's really there is impression that AI, when you use these AI tools, that it's some kind of not similar, but you feel it. It's done not by human. It's there is this feeling, there is this um, kind of you it's like removing some human from piece that you're creating. So do you feel it that it's something human removed from it, or it's for you it's absolutely organic?
I'd maybe jump in and second a little bit what Fredrik was talking about. Hi, my name is Oliver. I'm an animator and a storyboard artist. Do you guys hear me? Yeah? Okay. I was thinking about all of this over the last few weeks, and my dad is a photographer, or was medical photographer by profession, but a nature photographer by passion. And so I accompanied him on many an expedition out into the wilderness parts of the world. And when I was a kid, being a guy who obsessively drew and painted and all that, I kind of looked at photography as kind of a lesser art, because I got lucky a few times and was able to snap the odd great photo when I had a camera in my hand. But to do so consistently over time and to create a body of work and when I looked at the work that my father had produced over the decades, you saw that there was a vision there. He was really interested in certain things and framed things certain ways, and he of course had to select the images that were the really standout images from thousands. It's similar to what Fredrik was talking. So there's a process, a back and forth between you and the world. And the world is really infinite in its possibilities, the analog world out there. And so the artist has to bring his vision to it. And that vision, of course, evolves the longer he interacts with the world. So it's a back and forth kind of thing. But to be able to conceptualize the artistry element in the whole thing, I would liken the AI artist, and I don't use that in quotes. I use that seriously because when I was introduced and first blown away by guys like Fredrik and his work, which has a very, very unique signature to it. You know, it's not just AI slop. I mean, this is, you know, you feel the artist and the author behind that. You know, it's a lot like being a photographer, and when you develop an appreciation for photography and the great photographers who had a signature style that you could, you know, the Ansel Adams and the Diane Arbises and whatnot. And if there's a few others, there was this great Brazilian guy that I just discovered that I had seen before, but the style is unmistakable, the subject matter. So I think of it as a little bit like that. So if you, you know, because to be a part of a forum like this, it feels a little bit like, you know, joining some, you know, behind the scenes, you know, hidden away thing during Prohibition. You can't tell your friends that you're talking about this or you're interested, because 99% of my colleagues would, you know, I'd be tarred and feathered and excommunicated from the tribe. We're still sort of at that stage right now, at least in entertainment, because, you know, AI is coming for the jobs. But I don't know. I'm just rambling here, but I'm just super interested in and a big Fredrik fan, as Fredrik well knows. So I'll just shut up now.
Thanks, Oliver. I mean, I think it's often based on misunderstanding also. I think people assume that this automation kind of replace intention. I mean, in reality, I think decision making becomes more important. And of course, the process itself. I always come back to the process and how we like treat the way we work with the AI and the images that comes back to us, sort of. And so I think the biggest misconception is that we just write the prompt and we take what comes out and call it art in a way. But that's not the case, not for me anyways.
Could I ask more questions? Okay, so okay, guys, but you still talking about this people losing jobs and whatever. So it's not a question about your art or, but how we are going to solve this? What we are going? What's basically universal income for all artists, or what? What going to happen if really we want? Just recently, I talked to a very young guy at the opening of the exhibition, and he's like in late 20s, and he said that his friend was recently fired from graphic design job, and the whole department was fired. Actually, it's not only him and his friend, like in early 30s, and everything is right now done by some kind of AI program, and clients are happy with it. So how we are really going to solve it? So what we are going to ask our politicians, government to do? How we could organize our work and everything, our society. I'm not asking you for answer, I'm just saying, have you ever think about it? If you thought about it, what do you think?
I don't know.
This is the same argument, isn't it, Jay, that was raised when paste ups and mechanicals and, you know, the traditional art directors, started being confronted by the arrival of digital technology.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. It's above my pay grade. I guess you know, the choices are we print more money and just give everyone free money, which doesn't sound healthy, you know. But it I think it's up to us to, you know, figure that out and to figure out how you can create value as a person to the world. And the world doesn't really owe you an income doing the way you've always done things in the past. You have to figure out how to be useful to the world too. It's a two-way conversation that people need to have, and it's a hard question. I don't think there's a one size fits all answer.
This is Babs Reingold again. Doug, I have to agree with you. I think it's very, at least it seems to me, because I was an art director for years and years. That's how I made my money. And I started at the end of the mechanical stuff and then became an art director and had to learn all the new programs and learn how to function in that world. And I think that you're always going to need the operators. I mean, I think, Jacob, you have reiterated that several times. You're always going to need you're going to need the people that are literally making the stuff work. I mean, there has to be somebody making the stuff work. It's unless everybody thinks it's going to be suddenly this thing where you go out and there's nobody there at the controls and it's just making it on its own. I mean, we're not anywhere near there at this point. So I'm just kind of agreeing with Doug. I think it's the same thing as every new thing that comes, we all have issues with it.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Sorry. Okay.
No, please.
Yeah. From my point of view, I've worked as a art director and a visual designer and a graphic designer for many years. So this was more like evolution for me, next step to to embrace new technology and to experiment what the next step will be in my journey as well. So, and I think from that, from being an art director for so many years, I think I brought in also a lot of, knowledge into this space, kind of, and I kind of have that, when I curate my images, for example, I have that advantage from my previous work as an art director. So, I mean, for me, it's just evolutionary step forward, so it's sort of.
I think the role I want to play here is to actually caution towards the other side and sort of agree that this or actually say that this might be far more threatening than previous sort of technological changes. The first thing that comes to mind for why is that in the past or just now, whether you are aware or not, there's been a law that it is illegal to regulate artificial intelligence for the next 10 years at the state level, at least in my state. Now, over the next 10 years, the capabilities of those systems are going to exponentially grow, and the capabilities will move beyond what they do on a computer to what they can do as they gain more power and take hold over systems in real life. I don't think we have a good lens or a historical record to predict the impact of how quickly this change could happen. So I definitely just want to hold on to a bit of caution that this truly could be one of the more dramatic shifts for artists that has ever happened. And it is really scary, and I think it deserves pause.
Valid points that you're thinking about what you just said makes more sense. It really is, because we don't know exponentially what will come, because it's moving so fast. It's moving so fast.
All right, there were many links and answered questions within the Zoom chat. I welcome everyone to take a look at that before the Zoom ends. I was instructed to read a few out loud. Stacy Bogdanoff asked about copywriting with AI images, and Jacob stated that he believes as of now, US copyright will not copyright AI images. Gail asked about a choice of AI programs, and Jacob stated that ChatGPT and Gemini can make images, but Midjourney is more widely accepted as the creative model. Also, he mentioned programs such as Kling 3.0, VO 3.1 and Seed Dance as animation models. He also recommends Marble Worlds Lab as a place for Gaussian splatting. Are there any other questions or comments? All right. Well, thank you so much, Jay, Fredrik, and Jacob, and also thank you to our board and volunteers. Join us next Monday, March 2nd at 7 p.m. Eastern for an engaging dialogue between noted biographer Gail Levin and ATOA's president, artist, and writer Doug Shear on life and art of the pioneering abstract expressionist Alice Baber. And Jacob's saying, feel free to email. He's putting his email in the group chat. And yeah, thank you so much.
Thank you, everyone.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you all.